What's up, everybody? Chris Fluke here, Chris Fluke Podcast, episode number 149. Today I'm going to call this episode 12 Years with the Whistle. And what I'm going to be talking about is kind of having an organization that is going to be successful. And I'm taking influences from my years as a football coach and even working with wrestling programs, right? 12 years in football and then maybe 6 or 7 in wrestling. Things that I've observed over the years, both good and bad, and also books that I've read that were good, like this one that I'm going to read from today, the book of Bill Walsh, Finding the Winning Edge. And then there's some bad ones out there too that give terrible advice, all right? Now the goal is, let's acquire as much knowledge as we can, let's acquire as much experience as we can, and let's start applying that so we can become great coaches. Now, this podcast here is inspired by a conversation I had with the parent of a youth coach. And I was like, man, it looks like that one kid's doing great. He's having a good year, huh? And the response was like, yeah, he actually knows what he's supposed to be doing. And when he gets the ball, he's good, And I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, imagine that. Somebody that knows what they're doing is actually having success. Therein lies the key. A lot of times with coaching, people don't know what the heck they're supposed to do. You create these complex offensive systems, right? I'm going to take BYU's offense, and I'm going to bring it to the high school level. I'm going to bring the zone read, man. I've coached on the team. We brought this complex zone read offense, right? But guess what? Our quarterback couldn't figure it out, and we stunk, all right? We've had some good years. We've had some bad years. The years that we were good is when the kids knew who we were. They knew what our identity was. We did what we did. No matter who we played every week, that's what we did, all right? And we were going to get damn good at it because we practiced it all the time. And then I also coach with guys. There was kind of like a potpourri of plays, right? A collection of a bunch of randomness, and we never got good at it because it was so scatterbrained that the kids had no idea what our identity was, who were we supposed to be, what kind of offense do we run, all right? That's a problem. And then continuing this conversation with this parent, they were sharing with me 20 to 30 offensive plays, different formations, 20 to 30 defensive plays. On defense, they're calling out colleges or states like Hawaii, Tennessee, Nebraska. On offense, it's a totally different thing, right? From year to year, from team to team, the verbiage isn't even the same. So what a kid learns one year is not the same as what he learns the next year. Because coaches run different systems. Why? Because they feel, I got to run my system. All right? I coached in an organization where never once did the youth teams run the same offense that the high school ran. You would think it would make sense if you want your high school team to be successful. Use the same verbiage, use the same play calls, the formations, all that stuff at the lower levels, right? Never have I been with an organization that did that. All right, that's a problem because when kids have some cloudiness in their brain, when they're thinking, when they're supposed to be reacting, they're going to be slow. And when they're being slow, the coach might think they're being lazy, when really they don't know what the heck's going on. And at the end of the day, all fingers just come pointing back towards the coach because they're making errors in their coaching and they're making some poor decisions. All right? So if you're working with young kids, keep the messaging clear, keep it concise. I've sat in conferences with college coaches. They would have 6 run plays. I'm looking at our offensive plays when I was coaching. We had like 12 to 15. I'm like, we don't even run these. Why are we practicing them? Let's cut the fluff. Let's do what we do. All right? And that's kind of what ended up happening. Whatever you decide to do it well. And how do you do things well? Clear language, concise language, and practice. You set your kids up for success with those 3 things, and then you put them in situations where they're forced to use that training and use that knowledge, all right, to be successful. If you ever watch football, sometimes you're going to get the ball at your own 1-yard line, and any mistake could lead to the other team scoring, right? So you need to prepare your kids for that. You need to prepare your kids for random onside kicks. You need to prepare your kids for fake punts, right? All of these things that might show up, that might create panic. You don't want your kids panicking. The great Chuck Noll said, panic is leaving the game plan is a sign of panic, and panic is not in our game plan, all right? You stick to what you do. You coach the kids throughout the course of the week because it's what you do between Monday and Friday that matters, right? Once game time comes around, it's your training and it's your coaching that's going to lead to execution. You either did a good job during the week or you did a poor job, and it's going to show up on game day, all right? Keep the messaging clear and create successful verbiage, successful lingo, successful communication measures so that you know that your message is getting across. Now, Bill Walsh, this is working with adults now, right? This Hall of Fame type of guys. He had identified some things that he would share with his assistant coaches. Use a straightforward, broad-based vocabulary that allows you to communicate in a very specific, descriptive terms. You know, talking to high school kids at a 5th grade level is probably a good thing, because then you know they're going to know what the heck you're talking about. Employ clear, concise language that ensures that your explanations to and exchanges with other individuals will be clearly understood. All right? Clear and concise language. Ensure that the information you provide and the instruction you offer on a given topic accounts for a wide range of knowledge and comprehension among the members of your intended audience. If you're coaching a lot of kids, you need to make sure that your message covers all of them, right? And you need to remember, too, that some members of the group to whom you are speaking may be more receptive and more ready to learn than others. Some kids might get it quick, others might not. You don't give up on those other guys. You got to try to find ways to communicate with them so that they can understand and comprehend what's going on. Your team is only going to be as strong as, the weak link, so to speak. So let's build up the bottom half of the roster, because then they're going to make the top half of the roster better by practicing tough, by giving us better practices, maybe pushing the starter, say, for that starting spot, which is going to make that starter give us more effort in practice. All that stuff. Demonstrate enthusiasm and passion for the material you are presenting. You can't just be like, hey, this is the defense we're going to run. If they do this, we're going to do that. I've worked with a guy that did that. We stunk. Okay? We stunk. We can't have that. A little enthusiasm works. And if you're not that guy, if you don't have that enthusiasm, then don't accept the job. All right? What else do we have? Organize and give your presentation in sequential building blocks. That's what I was talking about with that youth organization. Those are the building blocks in a high school. Let's get the youth and the middle school and the high school all on the same plan. Keep the length of your presentation in appropriate duration. Watch some football teams, right? Coaches all have to give their spiel at the end of practice for some reason. Watch the kids' faces. They're in it for 2 to 3 minutes, and after that, they're looking down, they're looking around. They're totally lost. If every coach talks for 2 to 4 minutes, now you got, 12 to 20 minutes of stuff. And these kids, they're only going to pay attention maybe the first couple minutes, right? There's always exceptions. But believe me, man, 12 years of coaching on the football, 12 years I've seen that. Be aware of and sensitive to the limitations of a group of individuals to learn a given task or subject. You got to know your audience. You got to know what they're going to be able to pick up. And before you move on, make sure the topic is thoroughly comprehended by your audience before you discuss more complex aspects of the subject matter. Review your presentation of specific material constantly. If the stuff's not getting across, you need to revise it and keep the delivery current and fresh. A great story about Bill Walsh is that, every year he would have these meetings with his quarterbacks, and guys like Joe Montana and Steve Young, they got their pens out, they got their paper out, and they took notes. Every year they took these notes. They were meticulous in trying to understand what coach wanted from them. And they knew that if they wanted to last in this league, they needed to do that. So they could have taught the class probably, but yet they were still there taking notes. All right? Why? Because they wanted to be the best that they could be. Not everybody's like that. All right? But it doesn't mean you don't need a coach that way. Because you're going to be surprised. You're going to be surprised what you find in some of your athletes. If you're super meticulous, if you set the expectations high, these kids are going to rise to those expectations. If you set the bar at mediocre level, then they're just going to stay and float around mediocre level. Expect a lot from them, but at the end of the day, don't blame them for poor execution, because it comes back to the way that you prepare kids. If kids don't know what's going on, take a look in the mirror, guys or girls, all right? Check your messaging. Check to see if when you do speak and when you do coach, are they into the conversation or are they off in la-la land, all right? And if they're off in la-la land, guess what, man? We need to change our messaging. And then if we become better coaches, our kids are going to understand the topics better. They're not going to panic. They're going to be prepared for game situations. And when the time comes, when they get that football, or when they got to get at, and when they got to make a tackle to save a touchdown, they're going to be confident in their ability because we prepared for it. Peace, everybody.